That morning, Lagos felt strange. It was too quiet, as if the air itself was holding back its birds. The birds didn't sing, the trees didn't sway, and even the buses that usually filled the road with noise moved slowly, like they too were afraid of something. Outside a small house on a dusty street, a girl sat alone. Her name was Joy. She was just 20, yet life had dealt with her with pains many grown women could not carry. She sat on a broken plastic chair, wearing a faded wrapper around her chest. Her back was bent, her face hidden behind her palms. Her body was shaking, but not from cold, it was from pain. Not just the kind that comes from wounds, but the kind that comes from betrayal. Hot water had just been poured on her, boiling water, and not by a stranger, not by a robber, not by a wicked neighbor, but by her own mother, the same woman who gave birth to her. Joy's body was red, her chest was burnt, blisters were forming fast. Her left shoulder looked like it had melted, her skin peeled like old clothes left in the sun, but she could not scream anymore. Her voice was tired. She had shouted through the night. Now she only cried silently. It was not the first time. This was just how life had been for her in that house. Her mother never liked her, never hugged her, never kissed her, never blessed her. From the day Joy began to grow into a beautiful young woman with a round face, a pointed nose, glowing skin, and a figure that made people turn to look, her mother's hatred grew. And my younger sister, Sandra, oh, she hated her even more. Sandra was her mother's favorite. Whatever Sandra wanted, she got. She ate the biggest bit of meat. She wore the newest clothes. She was praised even when she was wrong. But Joy, she was insulted for breathing too loud. She was slapped for asking questions. She was mocked for being beautiful. Her mother and Sandra said it was her beauty that brought curses to their house. They said men only liked her because she had a prostitute body. Joy would return from school to an empty pot. While Sandra sat and ate in the kitchen, Sandra would sit on the floor with an empty plate, hungry, tired, and weeping. Neighbors saw it, but nobody helped her. While Sandra sat and ate in the kitchen, Joy would sit on the floor with an empty plate, hungry, tired, and weeping. Neighbors saw it, but nobody helped her. Some would whisper, "That girl is suffering." But that was all. Nobody could come close. Nobody dared to ask the mother questions. Her mother's name was Mama Sandra, and everyone knew that her tongue was sharper than a razor. Her mouth could scatter peace. That morning, before the hot water, Joy had only asked for food, just a little rice, something to stop her stomach from turning. But Mama Sandra looked at her with disgust. "Are you not the same person that men are chasing up and down because of sheep? Go and ask one of them to feed you," she shouted. Then she boiled water. Joy thought it was for bathing. She was wrong. She stood by the door waiting to collect soap from her sister, and then the hot water flew. She didn't see it coming, but she felt it. Landed on her shoulder first, then her back, then her arm. She screamed and fell to the floor, rolling in pain. Sandra laughed. Her mother smiled, and the neighbors stood at their windows watching in silence. That was how the day began. That was the day the city of Lagos was quiet, but Joy's heart was screaming, and no one heard it. The burns on Joy's body took weeks to begin healing. The neighbors thought she had traveled. They didn't see her sitting in front of the house anymore. Her plastic chair remained empty. Her voice, the one that used to sing softly while sweeping the compound, was no longer heard. But Joy was inside, hidden, broken, and barely breathing. Her body was wrapped in white clothes. The doctor, who came once a week, shook his head often. "She's lucky to be alive," he said, after seeing the burns on her chest and arms. But Joy didn't feel lucky. She felt lost. Her face, the part she feared for most, had been spared by the hot water. But not for long. Something worse was coming. Each morning, she woke to the sound of Sandra's laughter. Loud, proud, and full of pride, Sandra walked around like a king, her hair always freshly braided, her clothes clean and ironed. Their mother cooked special food only for her: jollof rice, stew, fried meat. The smell filled the old house, but they never gave Joy a plate. Sometimes they left some small bones for her to suck on. That was all. She's not even useful again, Sandra would say loud enough for her to hear. Joy's heart broke a little more each day. She could not understand why the woman who gave her life hated her so deeply. She remembered being a child and trying so hard to win her mother's love. She would sweep, clean, cook, and serve, hoping to hear the words, "Well done," but they never came. Only Sandra got that. Once she asked, "Mama, what did I do wrong?" Mama Sandra didn't answer. She just looked her up and down with eyes full of hate. "You were born wrong," she said, and walked away. Joy didn't cry that day. She simply sat in her corner and stared at her own hand, soft, clean hand that did all the work, hand that never received thanks, hand that only held pain. One hot Thursday afternoon, everything changed. A car stopped in front of their gates. It was long, black, and shining. Children from the street ran towards it. Nobody in their area had ever seen a car that clean. A tall man came down wearing a white captain and brown sandals. He smelled of perfume. His skin shone like someone who had never walked under the sun. His name was Mr. Henry. He was looking for a wife. He came with an elder from the church who had told him there were good girls on this street. When he saw Sandra, he smiled politely. But when he saw Joy, quiet, gentle, Joy, standing at the back with a faded scarf on her head, his eyes softened. He asked to speak with her. At first, she hid behind the door. She was ashamed of her body, her burns, and the old wrapper she wore. But Mr. Henry asked kindly, and for the first time in a long time, someone treated her like she was human. He didn't speak fast. He didn't mock her scars. He said her eyes were soft and her voice was gentle. He said he liked her heart. Joy's hand shook as she served him water. Her eyes stayed on the ground. Her mother and Sandra watched in silence. Their smiles were tight. Their hearts were not happy. After Mr. Henry left, Sandra broke a plate in the kitchen. "What does he even see in her?" she shouted. Mama Sandra said nothing. But that night, she couldn't sleep. She sat outside with Sandra. They whispered. They planned, and while Joy slept like a child for the first time in weeks, dreaming of a man who saw her scars but chose to stay, her mother and sister were planning something that would change her life forever. The days after Mr. Henry's visit felt like lights breaking through a dark sky. Joy began to smile again, even if it was small and shaking. When she swept the compound, her steps were lighter. When she fetched water, she didn't drag her feet anymore. Something inside her had changed. Hope, something she had not felt in years. She had been noticed. Chosen by Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry returned days later with his elder brother. He brought gifts, rice, drinks, a wrapper for her mother, shoes for Sandra. Everyone in the compound came out to see. Mama Sandra laughed loudly that day. Sandra smiled so much her cheeks hurt, but inside they were burning. They couldn't understand how a girl they saw as worthless was being chosen over Sandra, the favorite, the one who had never known rejection. Mr. Henry told them his decision. He wanted to marry Joy, and not later soon, he was traveling abroad for business and wanted to return with his bride beside him. Joy looked at her hands when he said it. Her heart beat fast. She couldn't speak, but tears welled up in her eyes. Not tears of pain this time, but tears that came from finally being wanted, from finally being chosen. Not for body, not for beauty, but for something deeper. That night, her mother helped her choose her dress for the introduction. She even combed Joy's hair. "Wear this one," she said, holding a soft blue gown. "It brings out your shape." Sandra stood by the mirror smiling, but it was not the smile of a sister. It was a smile with knives behind it. They told Joy to sleep early. They told her tomorrow would be the beginning of a new life. They gave her food, good food, boiled yam and garden egg sauce. They even added 2 pieces of fish. Joy ate slowly. She was confused but happy. She didn't know it was a farewell meal. She didn't know it was the last night her face would ever look the same. The compound was quiet. Joy laid on her mat and slept. She held her pillow tight. Her heart was dancing. She had never been this close to happiness before. She whispered a prayer in the dark. "God, please let them love me tomorrow." She didn't hear her door creak. She didn't see the shadow standing in the hallway. She didn't smell the acid. It was when she stepped out to use the toilet holding a small torch that it happened. The touch fell first, then the pain came. Sharp, loud, burning, searing. She screamed. It was not hot water this time. It was acid. She didn't know which of them poured it. Maybe it was Sandra. Maybe it was Mama. Maybe both. All she knew was the pain, the smell of her melting skin, the blindness in one eye, the screams that tore through the compound like thunder. Neighbors rushed out, but it was too late. Joy's face, her soft, innocent face, was gone forever. The acid ran down her cheeks, past her neck, over her chest. Her skin peeled like paper. Her lips blistered. Her eye closed. Her hair burned. And through it all, her mother stood and said, "No mistake." She potted herself. Sandra stood behind her, crying fake tears, but Joy knew the truth. Even as she fainted and the world went dark, she knew they had planned it. They had planned it together. The same people who gave her life had now stolen her face. The hospital smelled of disinfectant and sadness. The walls were white, but there was no peace in them. The nurses moved quickly, whispering as they passed the room. Some turned away when they entered. Some looked at Joy like she was no longer human. She had been there for weeks. She had not spoken, not once. Only the sound of her breath, weak and broken, filled the quiet room. Her face was wrapped in bandages tightly, every inch covered, only her lips and one swollen. And even that eye stayed closed most of the time, not just from pain, but from fear. How it felt, fear of what was under the bandages, fear of what she had become. She remembered how it felt when the acid touched her skin. It was not just pain, it was war. It was fire sent from hell. It ate into her slowly, burning her neck, her cheek, her ear. It screamed louder than her voice. She could still smell it. Her own flesh cooked and bleeding. She still woke up in the night screaming, but no one came. Her mother never visited. Sandra never came. Only one nurse, Nurse Rejoice, would sit beside her sometimes and hold her hand. "God sees you," she would whisper. But Joy wasn't sure anymore. The day the bandages came off, the room was silent. The doctor came with a small mirror. He was an old man with kind eyes, but that day, even his hands shook. "Are you ready?" he asked. Joy nodded slowly. The bandages were peeled off, one layer after another. She winced as the cold air touched her new skin. She could feel the difference already. She could feel that something had changed, something deep, something cruel. The mirror was placed in front of her. She stared, and what she saw made her gasp. The girl in the glass was not her. Her right eye was smaller now, surrounded by scarred flesh. Her nose was bent. Part of it melted. Her cheek was rough and dark. Her lips were no longer soft. Her hair on one side was gone. Her skin looked like it had been parched by fire. One side of her face was a memory. The other was a nightmare. Joy dropped the mirror and covered her face with her hands. "No, no, 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 no," she cried like a child who had just lost her mother. But in truth, she had lost more than that. She had lost herself. The doctor tried to speak, but Joy didn't hear. She was lost inside her own scream. She stayed in the hospital for 2 more weeks. No visitors, no flowers, no family, no friends. No one came. Her food was dropped by the door like she was a stranger. Even Nurse Rejoice began to come less often. One Sunday evening, as the sun was setting, Mr. Henry came. He wore a fine suit and stood by the door holding his phone. He did not enter. He did not smile. He looked at her once and looked away. Joy's heart began to beat. "Henry," she whispered, her voice dry. He didn't answer. He stepped forward just as a little child, then cleared his throat. He didn't answer. He stepped forward just a little, then cleared his throat. "I'm sorry, Joy," he said coldly. "I came to tell you that I can't go ahead with the marriage." Our mouths opened, but no words came. "I'm not trying to be cruel," he continued, "but I need a wife I can proudly stand beside, someone who matches my status." Then he turned and walked away. Just like that. No goodbye, no hug, no promise, just silence. And when the door closed behind him, Joy let out a sound. Not a scream, not a sob, but something between death and heartbreak. that day, she stopped asking God why, because she already knew the answer. Some people were not punished for being bad. Some people were punished for being too good and too beautiful. The morning of the wedding came with rain, soft at first, then heavier, as if the heavens themselves were mourning for joy. Inside the small house, Sandra's laughter filled every room. Her heels knocked the tiles like music. Her white gown hung on the wall. Her hairdresser had just finished fixing her long weave. Her face was painted with gold powder. Her eyes were proud. She was getting married to Mr. Henry, the same man who once held Joy's hand and said, "You are the one I prayed for." Now he was marrying Sandra, and Joy, the one who used to dream of walking beside him, was sitting behind a curtain, alone, forgotten. She had returned from the hospital days before. Mama Sandra told her not to come out, not even once. "You will scare my guests, so stay inside." Thank you so much for listening to the very end. Watch out for part 2.